Omajnati manasyan sanansana sanaka sakshamritam yena tasmai shri gurave namah. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishnapastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Namani Namaste Sagisfati Devi Gauravani Pacharini Nirvashesha Sunyavadi Paskachai Desatarani. Hare Krishna. So we are meeting again for another section of the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3.
Recording in progress.
We will discuss together 3 chapters that today we will hear about the beginning of the Visarga, the creation by Lord Brahma. After that we will hear about the appearance of Varahadev, and then the last chapter we will have together is the pregnancy of Diti in the evening. All amazing chapters that so let's start. Chapter 12. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Maitreya Uvacha Itite Varnitaksata Kalakya Paramatmana Maima Vidagarbhota Yata Rakshini Bodhame. Shimaitreya said, O learned Vidura, so far I've explained to you the glories of the form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in his feature of Kala. Now you hear from me about the creation of Brahma, the reservoir of all Vedic knowledge. So, you may remember that at the end of chapter 10, Maitreya Muni said that he will begin describing the descendants of Manu. But before beginning his description, Maitreya Muni continues in his description on time by defining how it can be measured in space. We have heard from the previous chapter about the tiny Trasharenu, that the smallest measurement of time, up to the supreme Kala, which is the lifetime of Brahma. And that lifetime of Brahma, we heard, is less than a second for Lord Vishnu. So in this chapter, chapter 12, Maitreya returns to his original subject, the manifestation of the Manus. So you may remember in chapter 10 there were these 10 divisions of creations, all the animals, the trees, so many creations. And number 6 in the list is the creation of the ignorant darkness, tamasa, by which a living entity acts as the master or as a fool. So now Brahma will begin his creation by expanding this darkness. The darkness we will hear in the next verse, which he expands in 5 divisions. As we know, Brahma only manifests what is already being created by the Lord. He puts it together. He's the engineer. So this darkness has already been created in Sarga, and Brahma will expand this ignorance into 5 divisions. We will hear about his divisions now. Text 2. Sasarhendatam tamisham atatamisham adikit mamoamas samoamcha tamasar sajar sahyana vrittaya. Brahma first created the nascent engagements like self-deception, the sense of death, anger after frustration, the sense of false ownership, and the illusory body conception of forgetfulness of one's real identities. So, in other words, we are in this world, but before we could enjoy in this world, we need to forget who we really are. If you remember that you are blissful, spirit soul engaged in the spiritual world, in great bliss and happiness, yeah, then why do you want to enjoy in this material world? So first we have to forget who we really are. How else can we enjoy? If we knew that we are eternal, full of bliss and knowledge, how can we enjoy anything in this world? It would be impossible. Therefore, we first have to get covered by these 5 types of nations. And let's have a closer look to these 5 types. So, first the verse speaks about Andatamisha, the sense of death. There's the idea when the body dies, we die. Andatamisha. You think when the body dies, I'm finished. That's the last illusion, really. Accumulation of all the other illusion. But before there is Tamisha, anger after frustration, this Mahamad, the sense of false ownership, this is mine. And Mohan is the illusory conception that I'm the enjoyer. And then Tama is the darkness of self-knowledge. So maybe I should share the screen and bring the text on the screen. So, text 2. Can someone read the purport, please? Whoever wants.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Please,
Should I read?
please, go ahead.
Yes, thank you. Before the factual creation of the living entities in different varieties of species, the conditions under which a living being in the material world has to live were created by Brahma. Unless a living entity forgets his real identity, it is impossible for him to live in the material conditions of life. Therefore, the first condition of material existence is forgetfulness of one's real identity. And by forgetting one's real identity, one is sure to be afraid of death, although a pure living soul is deathless and birthless. This false identification with material nature is the cause of false ownership of things which are offered by the arrangement of superior control. All material resources are offered to the living entity for his peaceful living and for the discharge of the duties of self-realization in conditioned life. But due to false identification, the conditioned soul becomes entrapped by the sense of false ownership of the property of the Supreme Lord. It is evident from this verse that Brahma himself is a creation of the Supreme Lord, and the 5 kinds of nescience which condition the living entities in material existence are creations of Brahma. It is simply ludicrous to think the living entity to be equal with the Supreme Being when one can understand that the conditioned souls are under the influence of Brahma's magic wand. Patanjali also accepts that there are 5 kinds of nescience as mentioned herein.
So the conditioned soul, if the conditioned soul wants to have a material experience, that's only possible if one is under these 5 illusions. And let's then put in order. The first thing is, to come in the material atmosphere is tamas. Tamas means I must forget my real identity as a spirit soul. So, and that begins with forgetfulness of Krishna. You forget Krishna, and we forget who we are. So that is this tamas. We forget Krishna, we forget ourselves, we forget that we are servants of Krishna. That's this tama, that forgetting of one's real identity. And then one has forgotten oneself. Then the second illusion comes from that. One thinks, oh, I'm the controller, I'm the enjoyer. There is no Krishna, completely forgotten. So who is in control? I'm in control. And I want to enjoy that. So that's the second illusion. It's called moha. That's the false ego that becomes manifest, the false I. And then from that moha comes a third illusion. It's called mahamoha. Mahamoha means there's this sense of ownership. This is mine, and this is for my enjoyment. I want to enjoy it. That everything is created for my enjoyment. This is mine, and for my enjoyment. The sense of mine is generated. Mahamoha. And then from that, then Tamishra comes. Tamishra is anger after frustration. We know that from Bhagavad Gita, Dayate Vishyapam Cham Sanghas Tesh Bhajayate Sanghas Sangyate Kama Kamako Vijayate. We think this is for my enjoyment, but then the enjoyment does not happen as planned. And we become angry. Anger comes. Tamishra. That's a fourth illusion. And then the fifth illusion, finally, under Tamishra, one thinks, I'm the body. And when the body dies, I'm finished. Fear of death, under Tamishra. So we are all under this, by Brahma's willpower, this magic wand manifest. And it has the ability to bewilder us. We are all under Brahma's magical wand. So it bewilders us in 5 kinds, with these 5 kinds of nations. That is what this magic wand does. The truth is that Krishna is ours and we are Krishna's. That we belong to the creations of these energies. So that's the magic wand of Brahma. Text 3. So, seeing such, first Sanskrit, Trishtva papiya sim shistim Natmanam bhav amanyata Bhagavadyana putena manasanyam tato chichat. Seeing such a misleading creation as a sinful task Brahma did not feel pleasure in his activities, and therefore he purified himself by meditation on the personality of Godhead. Then he began another term of creation. So, interesting here that, yes, Brahma feels bad after creating this magic wand. He has to bewilder everyone. It's not a pleasant task. So, after that, he wants to meditate on something good. So we will see Brahma is going up and down. A bad experience, a good experience, again a bad experience, a good experience, good sons, bad sons. it's going up and down, his experience. So Brahma is that experience. So what can we expect in our material life? Good, bad, good, bad. It is going up and down all the time. So Srila Prabhupada, in the purport of this verse 3, explains why we are under this magic wand of Brahma, a wand or a wall. It's because misuse of our independence. That's the reason. That when we see the middle of the first paragraphs, it's when the living entity prefers to misuse his independence and glide down towards nations, the all-merciful Lord first of all tries to protect him from the trap. But when the living entity persists in gliding down to hell, the Lord helps him to forget his real position. Amazing. We were quite insisting. The Lord helps the falling living entity glide down to the lowest point just to give him a chance to see if he is happy by misusing his independence. Yeah. So the Lord helps us to glide down to hell, as Srila Prabhupada said. We were very persisting. We wanted to forget Krishna. And what's the purpose of suffering? It's explained here. To see if we are happy by misusing our independence. But we are not. Can someone read the last paragraph? Almost all the conditioned souls.
Almost all the conditioned souls who are rotting in the material world are misusing their independence, and therefore 5 kinds of nations are imposed upon them. As an obedient servitor of the Lord, Brahma creates all these as a matter of necessity, but he is not happy in doing so because a devotee of the Lord naturally does not like to see anyone falling down from his real position. Persons who do not care for the path of realization get full of facilities from the Lord for executing their proclivities to the full extent, and Brahma helps in that procedure without fail.
So that's interesting. Brahma has 2 tasks at the same time. It's the service of Brahma to help everyone to forget Krishna. He brings them in illusion. But Brahma is also the service to help everyone remember Krishna, because he's the first in our line of disciplic succession. He received the knowledge from Krishna. So he has both services, and interesting. Some people he helps to forget, and other people he helps to remember Krishna. It's very similar to the super soul. A similar duty and relationship with the conditioned souls. Text 4. Sanakam Sasanandam Cha Sanatanam Atamabu Sanat Kumaram Samunim Nishkriyan Urtvareta Shah. In the beginning, Brahma created 4 great sages named Sanak, Sananda, Sanatan, and Sanat Kumar. All of them were unwilling to adopt materialistic activities because they were highly elevated due to their semens flowing upwards. So, first, Brahma, he created 5 principles of nations. And now he creates 4 principles of knowledge. Of course, we have heard in She is Upanishad, you may remember that avidya and vidya exist side by side. So, what are the 4 principles of knowledge according to the purport? It's good to remember them, but these 4 Kumaras are embodiment, respectively, of Sankhya, Yoga, Vairagya, Tapas. These are 4 principles: Sankhya, Yoga, Vairagya, and Tapas. So these 4 principles are embodied by the 4 Kumaras. Srila Prabhupada writes, they inaugurated their own spiritual party, that or Sampradaya, known as the Kumara Sampradaya, or later known as the Nimbarka Sampradaya, for the advancement of Bhakti. So all these great sages became great devotees, for without devotional service to the Supreme Person, to the Personality of Godhead, one cannot achieve success in any activity of spiritual value. So Sankarshan instructed the 4 Kumaras, and they instructed Sankhayana Muni, and he instructed Parashar or Yaspati. And Parashar is the guru of Maitreya Muni, who is speaking here. Interesting connection, right? So now we are hearing from the head of the Kumara Sampradaya, that Maitreya Muni. So there is a pattern in Brahma's creation. First bad, that all this darkness, and then good, the 4 Kumaras. But it's going to continue, because now again bad, because this 4 Kumaras say, yet, no, we are not going to help you with the population of the universe. And then he becomes angry, we will see, again bad, and then the Rudras comes, they follow his instructions, he's happy, but then they are doing the wrong thing, he's again unhappy. So it's good, bad, it's going on to Brahma's creation. So, text 5. Text 5. Babase svapuputram prachachichataputraka Tannaichan Moksadharmano Vasudeva Parayana. Brahma spoke to his sons after generating them. My dear sons, he said, now progeny. But due to their being attached to Vasudeva, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, they aimed at liberation, and therefore they expressed their unwillingness. So they refused Brahma's order. So how could they refuse the order of Brahma? Yeah. Of course, those who are serious about gaining release from material bondage should not be entangled in the false relationship of family bondage. That is their argument. But they have two good reasons not to follow the orders of Brahma. And they are in the purport. Reason one. So Srila Prabhupada writes there was nothing wrong in the acts of the Kumaras. They refused their father's request that they become family men. Because it was for a higher purpose. It was for this disseminating transcendental knowledge. So, and second reason is, and that's in the purport, one who is Vasudeva Parayana or seriously engaged in devotional service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead need not care for any other obligation. And that's this verse here, Devarsa Buddhapninam Pitrinam Nakinkiranayam Renisa Rajan Sarvatmanaya Saranam Saramram Katormakundam Pariti Kartam. Can someone read the translation of the verse? Last sentences of the purport.
Maharaj, I will read.
Yes, please.
Anyone who has completely given up all worldly relationships and has taken absolute shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord, who gives us salvation, who alone is fit to be taken shelter of, is no longer a debtor or servant of anyone, including the demigods, forefathers, sages, other living entities, relatives, and members of human society. We'll finish it. Thus, there was nothing wrong in the acts of the Kumaras when they refused their great father's request that they become family men.
So Brahma had problems with his first kids. We will see that will happen a few times in the Bhagavatam. Later, Daksha has 1,000 sons, the Aryasvas, who were doing austerities to prepare for Grihastha ashram. The Narada Muni inspired them to become renunciants, and they all became sannyasis. And later the same happened with the Sasvalasvas. So they didn't follow the order of Daksha. And Daksha cursed Narada Muni, said, you have lured my sons prematurely in renunciation. Daksha said to Narada Muni. But without having the full experience of the miseries of family life, one cannot truly renounce. Srila Prabhupada comments in his purport there, that's for later, you will read that. Srila Prabhupada says, that's not true. One can have the realization just by hearing about the miseries. Anyway, that's a discussion for later. But that's not the first time. Text 6, these things happen further in the Bhagavatam. So vyadata suterevam patyaksyatanu sasanai kodando visam chatam niyantum upachakame. On the refusal of the sons to obey the order of their father, there was much anger generated in the mind of Brahma. He tried to control and not which he tried to control and not express that. So, of course, Brahma is in charge of the mode of passion, the mode of passion of material nature. Therefore, it was natural for him to become angry on the refusal of his sons to obey his orders. Text 7. Dhyani Yamanopi Puvirmatyat Prajapate Sadojayat Tanmanyu Kumaro Nilalobita. Although he tried to curb his anger, it came out between his eyebrows, and the child of mixed blue and red was immediately generated. So Brahma could not keep his anger inside, and then when it comes out in the form of living entities. That, of course, anger is a product of passion and ignorance also. That, so there's a small purport, I will read it. The phase of anger is the same whether exhibited due to ignorance or knowledge. Although Brahma tried to curb his anger, he could not do so, even though he is the Supreme Being. Such anger, in its true color, came from between the eyebrows of Brahma and Rudra, in a mixed color of blue and red, because anger is the product of passion and ignorance. That's it. So, text 8. Of course, we know stories of Prabhupada who was angry, but when Prabhupada was angry, he was not controlled by anger. He used anger. And after using it, he put it aside and he was calm like anything. That's a different point. Now, text 8, 9, 10, I will read the translations. After his birth, he began to cry, O Destiny Maker, Teacher of the universe, kindly designate my place, my name and place. The all-powerful Brahma, who was born from the lotus flower, pacified the boy with gentle words, accepting his request, and said, Do not cry, I shall certainly do as you desire. Thereafter Brahma said, O chief of the demigods, you shall be called by the name Rudra by all people because you have so anxiously cried. That so now that's okay, actually cried, and now text. Okay, text 11. With a long purport. Et indriyanna survyoma vayu agnir jalam mahi surya chandrastapashiva stananam vekitanite. My dear boy, I have already selected the following places for your residence: the heart, the senses, the air of life, the sky, the fire, air, the fire, the water, the earth, the sun, the moon, and austerity. So that is where we will find Rudra, anger, that manifest if we are becoming affected by the modes of passion and ignorance. So, Srila Prabhupada explains in the purport. In Bhagavad Gita 3.37, there's the first Kama Isha Kauda Isha Ratsaguna Samudbhava. So, In Bhagavad Gita 3.37, the principle of Rudra is described. Krodha, anger, is a product of Kam, lust, which is the result of the mode of passion. When lust and hankering are unsatisfied, the element of Krodha appears, which is the formidable enemy of the conditioned souls. Again, the verse 62 Bhagavad Gita, Dayate Visyapun Kam Sanghete Svachayate. So the false egocentric attitude of thinking oneself to be all in all is a manifestation of the Rudra principle in the heart. Foolishness. Prakati kriyamani gunakarvana sarvasa ahankara vimutatma kartamiti manyati. So this anger develops in the heart and is further manifested through senses like the eyes, hearts and legs. They become all affected. And then Srila Prabhupada gives many manifestations of the Rudra principle in this world. So when the sky is overcast with dense clouds and roars in anger, when the sea is infuriated by the wind and you have big waves and so on, that's all the Rudra principle. When the Rudra principle is exhibited by persons who are not engaged in devotional service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the angry person falls down from the peak of his improved position. So anger, if it's not used in devotional service, will be the source, the cause of your falling down. So yes, text 12 to 12. Lord Brahma said, "My dear boy Rudra, you have 11 other names: Manu, Manu, Maishana, Mahan, Shiva, Ritadvach, Ugrareta, Bhavakala, Vamandev, Tritavrata. O Rudra, you have also 11 wives called the Rudranis. And they are as follows: Di, Driti, Rasala, Uma, Niyut, Sarpi, Ila, Ambika, Iravata, Svada, and Diksha. That text 14. My dear boy, you may now accept all the names and places designated for you and your different wives, and since you are now one of the masters of the living entity, you may increase the population at a large scale. So finally Brahma is happy. They will get children. But this happiness will not be for long. Again, in text 15, 16, we will hear again bad. Good, bad, good, bad. Text 15. Ityadistasvaguna bhagavan nilalohita sattvakritisvabhavena sarsaryatma samapraja. The most powerful Rudra, whose body color was blue mixed with red, created many offspring exactly resembling him in the features, strength, and furious nature. The same furious nature. And text 16. The sons and grandsons generated by Rudra were unlimited in number. And when they assemble together, they attempt to devour the entire universe. When Brahma, the father of the living entity, saw this, he became afraid. Purport. The generation of Rudra, the incarnation of anger, was so dangerous to the maintenance of the universal affairs that even Brahma, the father of the living entities, became afraid of them. The so-called devotees or followers of Rudra are also a menace. They are sometimes dangerous even to Rudra himself. The sons of Rudra sometimes make plans to kill Rudra. By the grace of Rudra, that is the nature of his devotees. That is text 16. So text 17 and 18. Brahma told Rudra, O best among the demigods, there is no need for you to generate living entities of this nature. They have begun to devastate everything on all sides with the fiery flames from their eyes. They even attacked me. My dear sons, you had better situate yourself in penance, which is auspicious for all living entities, and which will bring all benediction upon you. By penance only, you shall be able to create the universe as it was before. A small purport. In the creation, maintenance, and dissolution of the cosmic manifestation, the three deities, Brahma, Vishnu, and Maheshwar or Shiva, are respectively in charge. Rudra was advised not to destroy while the period of creation and maintenance was going on, but to situate himself in penance and wait for the time of dissolution when his services would be called for. So first Brahma was happy, but then they started to destroy everything. So his first sons, they were in penances. Now he says that penance is a better idea. The four Kumars said, now we do penance. We are not going to engage in creation, in creation of children. Nothing for us. We do penance. And now Brahma is going to say to the Rudras, you should do penance. That's a better idea. So it's yes. Of course, that in the Brahma Samhita, it is said, this is verse 45 of Brahma Samhita, I don't have the translation here, but it says that Shiva is a combination of three different potencies. And these three different potencies, this is from Bhaktisiddhanta Sagisfati, Maharaj purport of the Brahma Samhita. So Shiva is a combination of three potencies. That first is a part of the Maya potency, the deluding energy, that the stupefying quality, what makes us stupid and ignorant. That's the first potency. The second potency is also part of the marginal potency, jiva, the quality of being limited. That as the jiva is limited, he's limited. And then the third, the ecstatic cognitive principles of the planet of the spiritual potency. Ego, Chit and Ananda, a part of that, not complete, a slight degree of that potency of always feeling blissful. Anyway, these are the high commentaries of Bhakti Siddhanta Sarasvati Maharaj. You can study yourself in the Brahma Samhita commentary on verse 45. don't ask me questions about it, it's too high for me. The text 19, yes. Tappashaiva param jyotir bhagavantam adoksam sarvabhuta kuhavasam anyasa vinote pumam. By penance only can one even approach the personality of Godhead, who is within the heart of every living entity and at the same time beyond the reach of all senses. So Brahma is asking Shiva, stop producing such unwanted generation. Take penance for attaining the favor of the Supreme Lord. So we find therefore that Rudra is always sitting in meditation. Shiva is always sitting in meditation. That's the instruction of Brahma. Is always sitting in meditation for attainment of the favor of the Lord. Srila Prabhupada speaks also about, on this verse, about tapasya. Our tapasya is on Ekadashi taking only some fruits. That's our tapasya. So the Pandavas, they went to the north. We find that in the Mahabharata. When they were going to leave this world, they went to the north, where the great yogis were practicing. Also, they did tapasya. So Rudra meditates on Sankarshan, the source of his existence. So this instruction for Lord Shiva, for Rudra, is also for his followers. So the Sanskrit of the verse indicates that Lord Shiva is going to realize Brahman, the Param Jyotir, and the Paramatma, Sarvabhuta Kuvasam, and Bhagavantam Adoksham, through tapasya. We have text 20 till 22. Next purport is 22. Yeah? Shimaitreya said, thus Rudra, having been ordered by Brahma, circumambulated his father, the master of the Vedas, addressing him with words of assent. He entered the forest to perform austere penances. Brahma, who was empowered by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, thought of generating living entities and got 10 sons for the extension of generation. And now in text 22 we have these 10 sons mentioned, that Marichi, Atri, Angira, Pulastya, Pula, Kratu, Brihu, Vashishta, Daksha, and the 10th son Narada were thus born. So I think we know all of them practically. So Brahma again now created another set of good children, who were mostly in favor of worldly fruitive activities. But without devotional service to the Lord, there is hardly any benefit for the conditioned souls, and therefore at last he created his worthy son, Narada. So without devotional service to the Lord, one cannot make progress in any department of activity, although the power of devotional service is always independent of anything material. Only The transcendental loving service of the Lord can deliver the real goal of life, and thus the service rendered by Sri Narada Muni is the highest among all the sons of Brahma. So we will read further also that Brahma had sons in goodness and other in passion, but Narada, he was transcendental. So I will now take you to the fourth canto, a little ahead, 29, talks between Narada and Prachinabari, text 42. Yeah, 42 till 44. Yeah. So, Srila Prabhupada, there's a nice purport here about these sages that. So, can someone read that purport which is on the screen now?
Hare Krishna Maharaj, could I read again?
Please go ahead. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. According to the foolish Darwinian theory of the anthropologists, it is said that 40,000 years ago, Homo sapiens had not appeared on this planet because the process of evolution had not reached that point. However, the Vedic histories, the Puranas, and Mahabharata relate human histories that extend millions and millions of years into the past. In the beginning of creation, there was a very intelligent personality, Lord Brahma, and from him emanated all the Manus, and the Brahmacharis like Sanaka and Sanatana, as well as Lord Shiva, the great sages, and Narada. All these personalities underwent great austerities and penances, and thus became authorities in Vedic knowledge. Perfect knowledge for human beings, as well as all living entities, is contained in the Vedas. All the above-mentioned great personalities are not only powerful, being cognizant of past, present, and future, but are also devotees. Still, in spite of their great education in knowledge, and despite their meeting the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Vishnu, they cannot actually understand the perfection of the living entity's relationship with Lord Vishnu. This means that these personalities are still limited as far as their knowledge of the unlimited is concerned. The conclusion is that simply by advancing one's knowledge, one cannot be accepted as an expert in understanding the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Supreme Personality of Godhead can be understood not by advanced knowledge, but by pure devotional service, as confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 1855. Bhaktyamam abhijanati yavanyasjasmi tatvataha. Unless one takes to pure transcendental devotional service, he cannot understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead in truth. Everyone has some imperfect ideas about the Lord. So-called scientists and philosophical speculators are unable to understand the Supreme Lord by virtue of their knowledge. Knowledge is not perfect unless one comes to the platform of devotional service. This is confirmed by the Vedic version.
Yeah, you can continue.
Do I read the Sanskrit as well?
I will read it for you. Atapta devat padambucha tvaya Prashata listen is lesanu kariti evahi. Shanati tatvam bhagavan maim no, natshanyoiko pichiram vishimvam.
Okay, thank you. And the speculators, the Gyanis, go on speculating about the Supreme Personality of Godhead for many, many hundreds of thousands of years. But unless one is favored by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one cannot understand his supreme glories. All the great sages mentioned in this verse have their planets near Brahmaloka, the planet where Lord Brahma resides along with four great sages, Sanaka, Sanandana, and Sanat Kumara. These sages reside in different stars known as the southern stars, which circle the pole star. The pole star, called Dhruvaloka, is the pivot of this universe, and all planets move around this pole star. All the stars are planets as far as we can see within this one universe. According to Western theory, all the stars are different suns, but according to Vedic information, there is only one sun within this universe. All the so-called stars are but different planets. Besides this universe, there are many millions of other universes, and each of them contains similar innumerable stars and planets.
So thank you. So now we know where these sages are, higher planetary systems, that to understand Krishna, one must have devotion. So even these great sages cannot understand the situation unless one comes to pure devotional service. So the last verse of today. So Pulastya was generated from the ears, Angira from the mouth, Atri from the eyes, Marichis from the mind, and Pula from the navel of Brahma. So we have heard about Brahma's going his ups and downs in his devotional service. So, and he had good sons, bad sons, again good sons. In the next section we will discuss the appearance of the Manus tomorrow. The first human beings, Swayambhuva Manu, Satarupa, and many others who are created who will help with the population of the universe. So that's the section of today. So, yeah, 1 hour we went to it. Any questions, comments, points of discussions? Yes, Mother Kanta, please.
Hare Krishna. I have maybe a naive question about the progeny of Rudra. Where did they all gone after Brahma set Rudra to meditate, and all his children, have they disappeared, or they didn't destroy the universe, right?
And the good thing of these sons was they were following the orders of Brahma. So when they were ordered to get into procreation, they created a lot of children. They followed the order. So Brahma was happy for some time, but then he ordered them to meditate. And that's a good point. They followed also that order. These Sudras are all meditating on Krishna in the heart. Therefore, Shiva is the greatest devotee. He is always meditating on the Supreme Personality of Godhead in his heart. So where they are physically, I don't know. Do you want to see them? That are not. I don't know where they are, but somewhere in the universe. That Hare Krishna. Good. Thank you.
One small question also. Is this Rudra the same Shiva that we are reading in Srimad Bhagavatam usually, that his wife is Parvati and his children are Ganesh and Kartikeya? Is this the same personality?
It is, yeah. The Shiva is the main Rudra. The, that, but of course, first he will marry the daughter of Prajapati Daksha, Sati, but then they will commit Sati. We will hear that also, and she will take her birth as Parvati, the the daughter of the Himalayas, and then she will be united again with Shiva as Parvati. So many. Anyway, I'm not a Shiva specialist, but that's so far that I know that. Yes, Hare Krishna. Thank you, Narikanta. Good. Shyam Kishore Prabhu. So please.
Hare Krishna, Maharaj. So my question is there any particular reason why Brahma does the creation in a way in the reverse order? Like he starts with nescience and then he starts with anger rather than starting with the more positive aspect. So is there like the later he has his sons, like who are representing the more positive aspects, but he starts with like first creating anger, like nescience, anger. So is there anything like why he first starts, like he starts almost in the reverse order?
Well, why he starts with that is going to create material conditioned living entities. And you need an atmosphere in which they are conditioned. So he first creates the atmosphere. That it's like you go to space, you need a space suit, otherwise you cannot survive in space. So we need a material body here under these 5 illusions, or you cannot have a material experience. So Brahma creates first these layers of ignorance, and then only he can start his work as Visarga and create the living entities, putting them under this illusion. But if these illusory layers are not there, then he would create living entities, but they would be self-realized and say, what I'm doing here, this is the material world, I go back to the spiritual world. Because there's no illusion that there are false ego manifests under these illusions. So therefore, that was the first thing he had to do. And it's not a thankful task. And Brahma felt really bad because he was a devotee. I have to bring all these living entities in illusion. But yes, because he is also the spiritual master of our Guru Parampara. And there he has a function to bring them out of illusion. So he felt bad about it. Does that help Shyam Kishore understand that?
Yes, Maharaj, that's very nicely explained. Uh, Maharaj, I also had one more question, and that is from the verse 11. So about the Rudra principle.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to understand because Prabhupada is also talking about some like practicalities. Like he's talking about like he says like like how anger exhibits itself and so I'm wondering whether like these 10 principles which are there some practicalities from like even controlling anger for people, like for example one is they maintain air of life, like we do know like in many anger control therapies people ask people to do more pranayam and that can calm you down or things like that. And also uh, at least it's quite popular in mainstream Hinduism, where they say that asuras can do more austerities than devotees can do. So, like where again here austerity and anger is linked
Yeah,
to each
yeah,
other. So I was
sure.
just trying to understand like some practicalities in day-to-day life from these 10 principles of the Rudra, where all they reside, whether from an anger management perspective, is there some learning? Like,
Well, we will hear in the Bhagavatam one sage who had that anger problem was Vishwamitra. And yogis, because where is this anger? It's a product of lust. And it's in the senses, it's in the subtle body especially. And by breathing exercises, one purifies mechanistically, frees oneself from this anger and becomes peaceful. So, and that's very known in yoga practice. Yeah, so if you are angry and you will cool down, start with deep breathing and it will calm down gradually. Not an easy process, but that, but finally, it does not take away the cause of the anger, which is lust. So Vishwamitra, although he conquered the anger, he became angry again. Because the first time he was allured by Minaka, the heavenly society girl, and she tried also the second time, but then he, Vishwamitra, remembered his first failure with her, and he became angry, and anger came out of his eyes, and he burned her body away. That by his anger. So yet still the anger problem. It was finally not taken away because it's going together with material desires. And to the root of material desires, to get it from the heart, you need bhakti, devotional service. Otherwise, the you, you can take away by this breathing exercise and so on, for the moment, the effects of the anger, but it comes always back. So that's that affected by anger, because this is anger that arises from frustration. But you have also, like Srila Prabhupada was also sometimes angry. And devotees did not want to be around when Prabhupada was angry. He was so furiously angry when, in the beginning, they had just built in Mayapur the first building, the Lotus building, and they finished Srila Prabhupada's quarters. And when Srila Prabhupada was in Mayapur, he made a walk with his devotees, and he came before his room. And at that time he looked at his watch and he said, the guard normally must be here at this moment. And he said, get me this guard. Srila Prabhupada went in his room, and then this Navak Yogendra Maharaj was with him. He was not a Swami at that time, but when Prabhupada, when this Bengali guard came in, Srila Prabhupada became very angry and started to shout to him in Bengali. And Navayogendra Maharaj said, Srila Prabhupada was so angry. I was shivering while he was so angry. And then the Bengali guard went out, and Srila Prabhupada became so peaceful again, like nothing ever happened. He used anger. he was not controlled by the anger, but one who is, but anger arising from lust controls you and difficult to overcome. And we see that also with Brahma. Anger was in his body and it had to come out. He could not control it. Of course, he's in source of the mode of passion and ignorance. He's such a the greatest living entity in us. So what with us? Does that help to clarify, Shyam Kishore?
Yes, Maharaj. Thank you very much, Maharaj.
Hare Krishna. Good. Then we have another question from Anarpita K. Pamoyi Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Krishna Maharaj, Danvatnam.
Haribo.
Maharaj, in verse number 11, the Rudra is having the place in moon and austerity. How to understand this? In a moon and austerity, the Rudra is having a place. And one more question: the 11 wives of Rudras also created by Brahma. How these wives were created?
Yeah. So austerity in itself makes the heart hard. It makes, and that's the Rudra principle. We see many times great sages who are very, very austere, but they can become quickly angry. That's because of this austerity. Yeah. He says it's in the earth, the sun, the moon. How it is in the moon, I don't know, but it is. Of course, Shiva is this half moon. I don't know the relationship. I cannot answer that point. And then all the 11 wives, Rudranis, they were also created by Brahma. That also on using the mode of passion and ignorance, the same modes that they were similarly created. Yeah, that's what I could say. Anarpita Kriya.
Because these sun came from the part of the bodies of Lord Brahma, Brahma, but the details of the wife of the Rudras are not in these verses.
No, the details are not there, but we know it is the mode of Rajas and Tamas. That's sure, because they were the wives. That yeah.
And okay, and then Brahma is Swambhu, the same way as Brahma is created by Lord Garbhodak Sai Vishnu.
Yeah.
That here we are finding that these sons are also coming with the almost same process. So they all are like a Swambhu.
Yeah, so Garbhodaka Saya Vishnu, then from the lotus feet, Brahma is created, all the planets, but all these living entities come also through the lotus stem into Brahma's body, and then he creates them, he gives them bodies. That's the process that he continues, that these living entities are in his body and it gives them these souls, he gives them bodies. It's mystical. We cannot understand it, how he does it. And Brahma says himself, I don't understand how I am doing it, but somewhere or other it happens.
It is not right to say they are Swambhu.
They are?
Swambhu.
Swayambhu Manu, that is one of the living entities which will be here about tomorrow, the first human being that is created.
Then last question was there. For these, the son of Brahmas are called here. They came in the mode of goodness and mode of passion and ignorance. But the husband of Devuti, Kardam Munis, belong to the mode of goodness. Even he is coming from the shadow. How one is coming from the shadow, he is in the mode of goodness, and who are coming from the body, they are in passion and mode of ignorance. How to understand this point?
Where do you get that information of Kardamamun?
I just read in a verse number. Uh, 1 second. In a verse number 28.
In verse number 28, that we will discuss tomorrow. That
Okay, we can discuss tomorrow.
yeah, because I don't see it in the purport here. But anyway, we can discuss that.
In 27, sorry, 20, not in 28, 28, 27, in last line.
Yeah, Sage Kardama Muni, the great, was manifested from the shadow of Brahma. Thus all became manifested from either the body or the mind of Brahma. That, of course, shadow of Brahma. Kardama were born in the mode of goodness. That it likes, it means he was of the same quality of Brahma. Goodness. Brahma represents passion, but he is in goodness.
Even he is coming from the shadow of the Brahma. He is in goodness. And others are coming from the body. They are in mode of passion and ignorance. It's not easy to understand from
Was
my
manifested
tiny
from the
intelligence.
shadow. 28. Have some comment on that. Yeah, of the body or the mind of Brahma. That purport, although one of the three modes of material nature is always prominent, they are never represented unalloyed by one another. So that's what I said before. Brahma had created living entities in the mode of passion, in the mode of ignorance, but also in the mode of goodness. And Kardama Muni is one of those in the mode of goodness, and also transcendental Narada Muni.
Yes.
So he creates all kinds of living entities according to his consciousness. What it says, the shadow of Brahma. That and he creates from his body, his subtle body, or from his shadow. Shadow is the same quality as, it doesn't matter, body or shadow, that it depends. It depends on the quality of consciousness of Brahma, and this quality of consciousness of Brahma in the modes is going to determine the body they get. That's the principle.
Maybe my understanding can be wrong. So I was looking in this respect of the, because spiritual world, this world is the like a reflection of the spiritual world. So same way the reflection cannot have a absolute position. So the how the good quality can come out from the lower thing.
Yeah, but it does not mean that the shadow of Brahma was a lower mode of nature. That's not what is said here. Depends on Brahma's consciousness. Where it comes out, his mind, his toes, or his shadow, it doesn't matter. But it depends on the quality of his consciousness. And that will develop and therefore Kardama Muni was in goodness. That he will be a pure devotee. So his consciousness must have been really elevated. The, that, yes. Mhm. Yeah, that's what I could say.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for your nice question. That, go on, Shyam Kishore Prabhu, please.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. So I very much liked a point you made just now while answering Anarpita Prabhu's questions. I mean, you mentioned that the austerity makes the heart hard, and people who do quite a lot of austerities are prone to anger because we are basically feeding the Rudra principle. So my question is, from a devotee's perspective, like what's the kind of a balance that the devotees should have when it comes to austerity, because we are also taught, like, vacho vegam mansa krodha vegam udarapastha vegam. So like, and also, Krishna mentions also in the Bhagavad Gita about the austerity of the body, mind, and speech. So from a devotee's perspective, what is the right trade-off or balance about austerity? Like, should we be austere, should we not be austere, should we be a little bit austere, or it's fine, just live your normal life and like just chant and live your normal life, like just like most people around live. So it's fine. You can have luxuries, you can have all these things, just to like so what's the right kind of a trade-off, like, because we are told about austerities, and then there's this principle which you said, which is a very nicely that you mentioned. So that was my question.
And that balance is explained in chapters 80-81 of the 10th canto, the story of Sudha and Vipra. Sudha and Vipra was very austere. Austerity is the wealth of a Brahmin. And he would not get sense gratification because he was afraid that would come in the way of my devotional service. So he was very austere. But then, of course, we know the story. He went to see Krishna in Dwarka. And he saw all this opulence in Dwarka. And how these pure devotees were living there in this great opulence. Krishna wanted to rectify something in his heart. So it's the principle of yukta vairagya. In the Nectar of Devotion, we have this verse, Anasaktasya Vishyam Yatartana Payam Yata, Krishna Sambandha, and so on. So this means that one should be not averse to things in this world, but know to whom everything belongs and use it in Krishna's service. So one must become neutral. And that changed in the heart of Sudha and Vipra. When he came back, he saw he get all this opulence suddenly, and he understood Krishna wants me to use it, and in his service. and to enjoy it in his service. So its disposition changed and was corrected. So aversion will keep us also in this world. We have to come to the neutral position, understanding these things. But in that is good. That's an advanced stage. But as neophytes in the beginning, we are too much attracted to sense gratification, and a little aversion in the beginning is good. So therefore, on Ekadashi, Srila Prabhupada says, we eat some little fruits. No, you don't have to complete fast, but do some austerity to control that's helpful to control your senses. But once you are used to it, give up this aversion. But it's a gradual process. But just to show where we have to come, that because if we keep this aversion, that is negative attachment to this world, and it keeps us in this world. So if we become purified, we must come to the point of becoming neutral. Does that explain?
Yes, thank you very much, Maharaj. This is so nicely and so sweetly explained with the example of Viprasudama. So it's very relishing to the heart. So we also could relish it very much, the answer that you gave. So thank you very much, Maharaj.
Hare Krishna. So, yeah, hearing again.
Yes. Maharaj, may I ask one more question?
Yes.
Maharaj, my question is there in the context of the Rudra's son, Brahmaji has given them the instruction: if you have anger, so you go for the austerity. Then that austerity make the heart hard, as you told. So the we see that we also not all that I can say that I also like the common human being. So I also may have a anger. So suppose we also do the austerity, our heart will also become hard. So in that case, we are seeing that by that austerity, their heart is hard, and they are using that hardness for the inhalation. So suppose a layman also do the austerity. So what should be the proper understanding there?
The point here is the Rudras are living entities in the mode of ignorance and passion. It's natural for them in these modes to be angry. But Lord Brahma saw a problem here, because if they cannot contain their anger now, then we are in the beginning of the creation, so there are difficulties with his children. So, what was the solution? Brahma, of course, remembered Mam Siyovya Vicharina Bhakti Ugnati Sivati Saktam Samatichitam Brahma Bhuya Kalpa. By devotional service, you transcend these modes and you get out of the influence. So there we set his sudras. You do austerities, but you meditate in your heart on Vishnu, on Krishna in the heart, with devotion, with love. So that's engagement in devotional service. And therefore they were all meditating constantly. And they are still meditating, because if they stop meditating, we are all in trouble here in this universe. So that was the order of Brahma. He engaged them in devotional service, meditate on Krishna in the heart. And therefore Shiva is the greatest devotee. He always thinks of Krishna in the heart. And therefore he's always transcendently situated And like Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Maharaj said, yes, then he comes in contact with this alat, uh, this pleasure potency of the Lord, and is always blissful. Does that help? Good. Thank you very much. Thank you so much for all your interesting questions, and I'm looking forward to finish this chapter tomorrow and hear about the creation of the Manus. We will see after the first human beings are created. Brahma is another problem. That will lead us to the next chapter. Thank you. Hare Krishna, Jai Prabhupada, Hare Bol.